I'm Jack Bradley in for Steve Lance tonight. National Security Advisor Mike Waltz is leaving his post, but President Trump says he now wants him to be the next UN ambassador. The president also establishes a new commission on religious liberty to emphasize the role of faith in America's identity. NTD's White House correspondent Iris Tao has more.
Amid a full day of reports that National Security Advisor Mike Waltz is leaving his post, President Trump announced this afternoon that he is indeed leaving, but he's now tapping Mike Waltz to be a new role, which is the new UN ambassador. Remember, that role was previously supposed to be Congresswoman Elise Stefanik's, as she was actually pulled out after concerns about a slim majority in the House GOP. And meanwhile, today we know that Mike Waltz thanked the president for it, says he's deeply honored to accept a new nomination. He does still need Senate confirmation, though. He has been, of course, we know, facing some scrutiny after his involvement in a Signal chat back in March that inadvertently included a journalist from The Atlantic magazine, where top officials were discussing plans to strike the Houthis. Democrats were calling on not just Mike Waltz, actually, but also Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth to step down because of the Signalgate. But President Trump today praised not just Hegseth, but also our Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who he says will be the interim National Security Advisor. Watch.
Pete Hegseth, who's doing a fantastic job. Pete, thank you. Marco Rubio, unbelievable. Unbelievable, Marco. When I have a problem, I call up Marco. He gets this solved.
Secretary Rubio, meanwhile, is wearing a lot of hats. He's now, of course, the Secretary of State, plus the acting National Security Advisor, which has the president's national security team. But he's also the acting administrator of USAID and also the acting archivist of the U.S. The State Department spokesperson today also seemingly caught by surprise, as she says she learned the news through a reporter during a live press conference. But she says that she has confidence that Rubio will be able to juggle these posts given his ability. Watch.
How is Secretary Rubio going to do this? Well, it's like, how does President Trump run the United States? You have people around you. It's not just you, right? It's about managing people. It's about assigning people to the right roles, as the president has just done.
And during a National Day of Prayer event in the White House Rose Garden, President Trump signed a new executive order establishing a Religious Liberty Commission. The new commission will be composed of, for example, clergy, legal experts, and President Trump's top allies. And the task for them will be to create a report on the foundations of religious liberties inside the U.S. and the threats facing it. Here's the president announcing his new move and describing the importance of religion to the country. Watch.
We're bringing back religion in our country, and we're bringing it back quickly and strongly. As we defend religious freedom in America, we're also standing up against religious persecution around the world.
And this new move today builds on the president's promise to protect Americans from threats to religious liberty. He has taken executive actions, for example, to eradicate what he calls anti-Semitic as well as anti-Christian biases. Reporting from the White House, Iris Tao, NTD News.
And the leader of the newly formed Religious Liberty Commission is Texas Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick. NTD's Steve Lance spoke to him earlier today at the White House. Take a look.
Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, thank you so much for taking a moment.
You bet. What a great day this is for Christians, for people of all faiths in America, and I think from around the world who watch what's happening in America, that this president wants to restore this, as I called it today in my remarks, the magnificent inheritance we had from our founders of religious liberty, and through no interference in government. And we're going to straighten out this whole idea of separation of church and state, which has been mangled by those that oppose to godly values. But this commission is going to set the baseline. Where were our founders? What did they truly believe? What did they truly say? What did those words mean? Because so much of it has been twisted over time, and bring it all the way up to current court cases, whether it's taken prayer out of public school or the Everson case in 1947. We're going to study this, create a baseline, and then each subsequent hearing will be focused on certain areas where religious liberty is being denied by people of all faiths.
What do you think really led to the necessity of such a commission, and how can this commission prevent those things that actually led to this having to be established in the first place?
Well, it what really brought it home was the last 4 years and the last administration that constantly attacked people of faith. It didn't matter what your denomination was or what your faith, Christian, Jew, Muslim, they were attacking everybody all of the time. And I said to the president, I've known him now for 10 years, and we talked about this, and we thought this was the right time to restore people's faith in faith, excuse my voice, to restore people's really that they have a right to this inheritance that our founders gave us. Look, this country was birthed in prayer. It was based on the Judeo-Christian ethic. Government should not interfere. And every day we see cases all over the country where someone says, no, you're a Christian or you're a Jew or whatever the faith may be, and you can't do that. You can't say that. You can't pray there. And that's what this is about. So people know their true rights. And then we'll look next year, turn in a report to the president to see how we can take action, either through executive orders or maybe legislation through Congress.
And lastly, if you could, just talk to us about the intersection of faith, morality, and government.
So you don't change a person's character or a nation's character unless you can change their heart. I mean, that's really what faith does. It changes your heart. And once you change your heart, you look at things differently, your own self and the world around you. And so we need people to feel totally at total freedom to pray to their God when they want and where they want, and have no sense that they're going to be persecuted for that or they're going to be criticized for that. Or there was a story just yesterday in Montgomery County, not far from here in Washington, D.C., where the school district is not letting a young lady graduate because she will not agree to certain courses that they taught. Not that she wouldn't take them, but that she had to affirm them and believe in those. And they said, and the parents said, wait a minute, this is against our religious faith. And they said, too bad, you can't graduate. That is an extreme that is seen around the country more than one time. And we see it in the healthcare industry, we see it in everyday industry, we see it at every level of governments. So it's time for believers in America, no matter their faith, and we are basically a Christian nation, but Christians in all over the faiths, it's time for us to stand up and say no. And that's what this president is, protecting their liberty. And so that's what our commission will study. Hey, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. You got it.
A judge says the Trump administration can't use the Alien Enemies Act to deport Venezuelan immigrants detained in South Texas. The Trump-appointed federal judge today ruled against the president invoking the 18th century wartime law. He's the first judge to wade into the legality of the Alien Enemies Act and permanently block the administration from using it. He ruled the executive branch can direct the detention and deportation of illegal immigrants engaging in criminal activity in the U.S., but he also ruled Trump's invocation of the Alien Enemies Act exceeds the scope of the statute. In March, Trump claimed that Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua members were invading the U.S., so he could deport illegal immigrants who were gang members. If the Trump administration appeals the court's ruling, the case would go next to the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals in New Orleans, one of the most conservative appeals courts in the country. Or it could appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court through an emergency motion. And Vice President J.D. Vance says President Trump's first 100 days marked the beginning of an industrial renaissance in the U.S. He made the remarks at a South Carolina steel plant. NTD Jason Blair reports.
100 days under Donald Trump's leadership marks the beginning of the industrial renaissance in the United States of America.
Vice President J.D. Vance says that the Trump administration is working to make a new golden age of American manufacturing. He says they want to make it easier to make things in the U.S.
You guys, you're going to make it harder to manufacture in China. Isn't that bad? No, it's good. That's exactly what we want to do. They're saying you're going to make it harder for people to bring products in from overseas and undercut the wages of American workers. Exactly.
Vance toured Nucor Steel, the largest steel producer in the U.S. He was joined by U.S. Environmental Protection Agency Administrator Lee Zeldin.
We believe that we can both protect the environment and grow the economy. We choose both.
The vice president said that the U.S. recently learned what happens when you outsource the things you need. He gave the example of critical medical supplies needed during the COVID-19 pandemic.
And it turned out all of those supplies came from the very country that set the virus loose on the entire world.
Also on Thursday, SBA Administrator Kelly Loeffler joined Senators Joni Ernst and Roger Williams to announce a new bipartisan effort that will double the SBA's maximum loan size for small manufacturers.
Our small businesses will be at the heart of restoring American industry, helping to restore our economy, and reduce our reliance on foreign adversaries like the Chinese Communist Party.
Loeffler said that a similar effort will also be made in the House. Reporting in Washington, D.C., Jason Blair, NTD News.
Does the recently signed rare earth minerals deal between the U.S. and Ukraine bring us any closer to a peace deal between Russia and Ukraine? And how may Iran be using nuclear talks with the U.S. to buy time from an attack from Israel? For more on this, we're joined by foreign affairs analyst Harley Lippman. Harley Lippman, thank you so much for joining us here.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Now, the U.S. and Ukraine just signed a rare earths minerals deal yesterday. Trump said that the U.S. would walk away from peace negotiations if there's no sign of progress a couple weeks ago. Now we have a minerals deal and a 3-day ceasefire is on the horizon. Are we closer to a Russia-Ukraine peace deal as a result of this?
We are closer, but whether we get one is another big question. We're closer because, one, I think Putin has paid attention to Trump's being upset about Russia firing a missile into a Ukrainian town that had no military value and caused so much damage and so many civilian deaths. In this sense, Trump is really upset about this. This is a very good side of him. He doesn't want war. And the fact that we haven't seen any more attacks from Russia, I think, suggests that Putin and his advisors are mindful not to upset Trump any further. And the fact that Zelensky has come around from the American point of view to give America what it wants, a minerals deal, where from Trump's perspective, America is going to get the money back that it invested in Ukraine, which is about $100 billion. From Trump's point of view, this is good to go. So he's feeling good about Zelensky. He had a recent meeting with him just the other day. And so we are getting closer, but I think it's a long way to go before there's actually going to be an agreement, if there's going to be a peace deal.
And through this minerals deal, Ukraine hopes to receive more protection from the U.S., more assurance. And as for what the U.S. receives, here's White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller this morning.
We're a very mineral-rich country, but with respect to that deal, we'll move it and operationalize it as fast as we possibly can. But it's meant to pay back the United States, this is the key point, for the hundreds of billions of dollars that our taxpayers have spent subsidizing the war in Ukraine. So it is repayment to the United States, and that's one of the most important points to understand about it.
So, Harley, the U.S. sent roughly $120 billion to Ukraine in military aid since the start of the war about 3 years ago. Is this a fair deal?
That's in the eyes of the beholder. There's always to look at it. From the American point of view, we should get our money back. We've made this investment for Ukraine. What does America get for that? So it's a very transactional approach. This is the new theme of the Trump administration, is foreign policy by transaction. It's no more defending democracy or speaking out about human rights. It's what's in the national interest in a give and take trade deal approach. But going back to the deal with the minerals deal, but the real problem is that, as you pointed out, it requires the United States to guarantee the territorial integrity of Ukraine. And that's a sticking point for Russia, because Russia wants Ukraine. And even though the way it looks now, where Trump has given Russia basically what it wants, an off-the-record statement that Ukraine will never be part of NATO, and allowing Russia to keep what it has, which is 20% of Ukraine, you'd think that Russia would be satisfied with that. They're not at all satisfied with it. So it really speaks to Putin's larger ambitions of taking on Ukraine and taking it over and having further expansion to try to get what he feels is his empire back.
And the U.S. and Iran are in direct talks now to come to an agreement to prevent Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon. This is the first time that these talks have taken place in years. So what do you make of this under the President Trump's first 100 days as progress towards denuclearizing Iran?
Well, there's two ways of looking at this. The critical way says that Iran is using these talks to postpone Israel from attacking Iran. So the longer they talk with Trump, the more that Israel cannot make a preemptive strike against Iran, which is what a lot of people feel will happen. Also, the critical view of these talks is that Iran, unlike the United States and Western nations, does not look at this agreement, if they come to a nuclear arms agreement, as something to be honored in good faith. Iran looks at this as simply a way of gaining time so they can rebuild. They'll lie, they'll hide things. This is what they've shown us. Historically, they've done it, and they think they can outmaneuver President Trump or outlast him in office. So this is really not going to get us a verifiable deal that's going to stop them from getting a nuclear weapon. It's just their ideology is going to drive it to the point where they're going to get one. But the people who feel that support President Trump are saying that his position is very clear. They're going to have to actually eliminate the entire nuclear infrastructure so Iran cannot have a nuclear bomb. And that's a very good thing, because if you allow them to have a nuclear bomb, you'll start an arms race in the Middle East. Already Saudi Arabia said they'll get one, and then Egypt and Qatar will get one, and then other nations will have one. And in that part of the world, someone will probably end up using one.
Harley Lippman, thank you very much for your insights here today, as always.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching the Capitol Report. If you want to see our full broadcast, check us out at epochtv.com.